topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending. This isn't just a podcast. This is a call to action for all entrepreneurs who are tired of seeing their businesses and communities suffer while big business continues to grow by the billions. We challenge you to apply the content of our time together to create businesses that your clients can't resist, your employees love to work for, and your communities can depend on. Now is the time for Entrepreneurs Ascending. All right, and we're live. We're live. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today, Matt?
Good. I'm doing great. Doing great. Well, hey, and how are you doing out there in podcast land? So we're extremely happy to have you here today. Today we're going to be talking. The title of the show is Business Owner Dads and Moms, Time versus Money. But this is really applicable to anybody who really they know that they want something bigger and they're trying to kind of figure that out, and they know that relationships are important and they're trying to figure that out, and they're trying to figure out, okay, what's that balance of like my self-care and all that, as well with the wealth that they want to create, because most people start their money or their business because they want to create some sort of wealth, right? So we're going to actually have two different sections today. We're going to first be talking about that time component. We're going to be talking about how you manage your time and some little tricks of the trade, if you will, some tools. We'll give you some ideas on some steps that you can take, because again, this is not just a podcast. This is a call to action. So don't just listen passively. It's about taking what we talk about and implementing it, executing it, practicing it, making it better in your life and your business. And then that second aspect of the show today, that second part of the show today, we're going to be talking about wealth and money, and how to get more wealth in your business, how to get more profit and be able to leave a legacy. We're going to even be hitting upon a little bit more about generational wealth and the importance of that. So stick with us today as we hit on both of those. Today we've got our guest, Brian Shrout. He is actually one of the coaches for TFS, Time for Success, our coaching company. And he actually brings a phenomenal background. He had an HVAC company for over 25 years, and he sold it. And, we were talking, we've known each other for years, and we were talking a while back, and he just got this great passion for helping other people and supporting other people. So, I'm like, hey, well, we do that. So come on and let's do that together. So, he's with us, and Brian, why is this topic, talking about, family and relationships and time and money, why is this important to you?
Well, it's really important because all essentially family-owned type of businesses deal with these things on an everyday basis. How do you go about dealing with running your business, and then deal with your family and that guilt of either, okay, I need to be at work, or I need to be at home taking care of my kids, or my kid has this event tonight, but I can't go to it because I have this meeting that's already scheduled. Trying to find that balance point between work and home, and being able to prioritize to give you everything that you want. And how do you get to that point? And we all deal with things in a different way, and to be able to find some tips, some tricks to be able to make it easier to try to have both, if at all possible. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. And same thing here for me too. It's having a wife for 17 years and two kids, a 16-year-old and a 7-year-old, and trying to just wanting to give them a great life, wanting to give them things that I never had, versus also like that time aspect, because kids and spouses even too. I mean, a lot of times
A lot
they
of times
spell.
they don't understand why you're not
Yeah,
there. They don't
yeah,
understand. So it's a matter of trying to help them understand what you're going through as well. And
yeah,
so there's that balance point of understanding why you can't be there, or why you have to do this for work, or
yeah,
the people at work understand why it's important for you to prioritize taking off to go do something for your child, or your spouse, or something along those lines. So
yeah,
it's really hard to find that balance point. And so
yeah.
having the experience in it, you know, makes it easier to be able to try to help others and help walk them down that path on how to make it easier for them.
Right, right. One of the great things that I've heard is that kids spell love Time.
Especially when they're a little bit older. When they're younger, they don't get it, but when they're older, absolutely.
Oh,
The more the
I'd
more
have to.
time you're able to spend, the better they are.
Yeah, yeah. I have to say that maybe kids don't remember it when they're super young, but I think they remember your presence. I think they remember that sense of security of you being there. So maybe they don't necessarily get it, but I still think that it affects them,
Oh, it
foundationally. So,
absolutely affects them.
you know,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Being there for their sporting events or their
yeah,
their extracurricular activities, just knowing that you're there, that you're there
mhm,
supporting them is a big deal.
yeah. It's something, especially as we're early on entrepreneurs. That I've heard this story too many times, and so if you're out there kind of thinking like, well, this doesn't apply to me. I mean, my family's fine. They get it. They understand it. I hear the story, and this goes both ways for men or women. With their partners. They come home one day and the spouse is gone and the kids are gone and they're wondering where they were. They weren't supposed to be gone. Wait, and they notice like maybe some of the stuff's gone, like some of the important items. Like what's going on? And they end up calling the other person, and it takes a while to get a hold of them. Finally, they get a hold of them, and they say, "Look, we're leaving. We just can't take it anymore." And maybe you got this big, beautiful house. Maybe you got nice cars, but they end up saying, it wasn't about the house. It wasn't about the cars. It was about you. I married you to be with you, not your stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of times, you'll find that parents, as things get busy in life, you might end up just becoming roommates who happen to be parents just because life is so busy. So you gotta find that, again, that balance point. It's all about trying to find that balance point of being able to take care of your family, your spouse, and then also being able, ultimately, because part of that taking care of them is your income, and so how you're able to balance those things.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people feel that they have something in them that they want to give. Something bigger than them, and so that's a driving force. And but then they want to give that to their families. They want to show them love, but then they want to make that impact. They want to feel some sort of life of significance, some sort of purpose that drives them. Um, but then some people don't necessarily always know how to define like what it is. Like they know that there's something there. That they know that they've got something great. When we were prepping for this, Brian, you had a great analogy, I think, in terms of kind of like working backwards. Like if you think about it, you walk through a cemetery, just as an example, just thinking about life. My mother passed away when I was 9, so we visit there, at least once a year, or at least try to. And so I think about this at this time, but you look at the headstones, and there's a beginning date and an end date, and everybody's got those, but it's like what is it about the
What
middle?
happens between it, right?
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
it's that dash there. That's kind of the life, and that's what you want people to know about. So, kind of like we were talking about, that exercise is kind of go back and say, what do you want written on your tombstone? What did people think of you for it? Or even go back even further than that. What would 2 or 3 people, either a family member, a friend, a customer,
Hmm.
an employee, what would they actually say about you at your eulogy? And so that's your um, kind of that dash there. That's what you want to be known as. Is it you want to be known as a significant person in the community? Do you want to be known as the great parent, the business owner. What is it that you want? And that's what you got to kind of, again, as we say, work backwards. We've got our begin. We don't know when our end is, but getting to that end, how do we work through it? So if we know that we want to leave some type of mark on this world, what is that mark? So figure out what that is, and then you can work towards it. And really, until I kind of took that perspective of what is it that I want people to think of me or say about me, you really can really just be kind of floundering out there until you really figure that part out. And it's really important to really, it's kind of morbid to think of it that way, but you really need to, because again, you have that beginning and you have that end. So how do you, what is that middle part for?
Yeah. Nobody at your eulogy, if you imagine your eulogy, do you imagine people saying, wow, he always gave his family nice house, nice cars, nice clothes? Or do you want people like really saying about how much you really cared for people, how much you helped people, how much love your kids knew that you had for them, and you showed them, and talk about the memories, of the times that you had together. My grandfather passed away recently, and just listening to people share the memories of spending time with him and my grandma and all that, that was what was powerful.
No, absolutely. My father passed a little over a year ago, and we had, just through the company that we sold to, we still let everybody know, that he had passed. And they had on their own had simply asked, tell us any great stories about my father. And we ended up with, emails, letters, unbelievable amount of stuff of stories and things that I had never heard of him helping out people in the community, or doing things, in the middle of the night or on a holiday, things that when I was little, I just, I didn't remember or anything, but
Yeah.
that's, those are those types of things that how you live your life is ultimately still how these people that you might not interact with very often still remember you.
Absolutely. So, we don't want to leave you hanging on this too, in terms of kind of how do you start bringing some more focus to what you want your life to look at, and how you make sure that things that are important to you, your priorities, are balanced. One thing that I really love to start out with when we're working with clients is we talk about the wheel of success, or other people have called it the wheel of life. We've called it wheel of life in the past, but I mean, in so many times I've heard people like say, well, success, why is success the most important thing? It's like, well, success doesn't, I'm not just talking about money. When we talk about the wheel of success, we're talking about like those key areas of life that you define success. It could be your mental and your emotional state, spiritual connectedness, safety, security, love and partnership, your legacy, your surroundings. Did you ever achieve what you wanted to achieve? Fun and recreation, health and fitness. I mean, all these things. And we actually have like 12 different factors that we encourage people to write what their 10 would be. Yeah.
So here's kind of what we have here.
Yeah. Go ahead and explain that, Brian. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have this wheel. We call it the wheel of success, and so you put all those those items, those 12 items up there, and then you kind of rank them between 1 and 10. And if it was if everything was a 10, then it would be a perfect wheel, and you'd be able to go down that road with no bumps in the road. However, life isn't that way. So as you go through life, some areas might be a 10, some areas might be a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And so as you're going, that wheel, you imagine that wheel rolling forward, you're going to hit a bump, and then you get to a good spot where you're good. And then also might you not get to another bump. But so it's a matter of taking kind of all these areas and, maybe not concentrating on so much ones that are 10, but maybe those might fall back to an 8. But being able to concentrate on some of those other areas that you're lower in, and bring those up to try to bring that, to bring yourself into a wheel where it is a little bit smoother. And then as you get to that more whole area of a round wheel, then you can start to increase the size of that wheel once you've kind of balanced all kind of the points of your life.
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Thank you. And if you're listening just on the radio, I'll try to explain it too, because we kind of showed a video. So, hit up our YouTube whenever we get this up and everything later. But so you can kind of see it. Um, but if the practice is that we have everyone write down what their 10 would be in each of these key areas of success in their life, and it's highly subjective. Whatever is important to them. Because some people, they might want $10 million, $1 billion. That might be a 10. Other people, they might just want to have $10,000 in the bank account or something. It is very personal. So.
And there's no judgment about it. It's what you feel would make you comfortable and
Right.
whole for it.
Right.
There's no
Right.
judgment about it.
Of course, we encourage people to think big and maybe even a little bit beyond that comfort zone. But at least we want to get an understanding first of what is comfortable to you. Where are you at? With that, and there is absolutely no judgment. It's just wherever you're at. So you write what your 10 would be, and then we've got this this graphic, if you will, and it looks like a wheel with little hubs, or with little hub
Spokes.
and spokes. Yeah. And each of those spokes is one of these success factors. And so on one of the spokes, you mark between 0 and 10, where you're at. 0 is kind of where the hub is, but then 10 is on the outer edge of it. So if you draw a dot then around all those success factors,
where you've rated yourself at on those things.
Yeah, exactly. Where you've rated yourself, then you can get an idea of kind of how well balanced you feel you are in terms of your needs, your wants, and it's powerful. Just like Brian was saying, if you hit a flat spot, if you hit a low spot, that's where you feel the most pain in life. That's where the traction that you're trying to build up, it slows down. Or think about it whenever you hit stressful points, and if you hit a stressful point in one of those areas that are kind of weaker, that you're, like let's say you've got money and finances low for you, and let's say you have, for the sake of the example, a car problem. Typically those are costly, and so those impact your finances even harder. So it's even more stressful for you. So we have to be able to inflate those areas healthily and not artificially, but build up those areas so that life can be a lot more smooth, and that even when you're running into those hardships, it's not as impactful, and you can keep that traction, keep that momentum going. So
yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it's a great exercise just to kind of see where you're at and kind of take a step back and just look at things, because everyone,
Mm-hmm.
You're usually so involved with your life that a lot of times you neglect to step back and just take a look at your life and where maybe some of those problem points are and where some of the good points are, and be able to reflect on it. It really helps.
Yeah. And if you want a copy of that, I'd be happy to work with you through it too. It's if you just want to email me, you can email me at matt@entrepreneursascending.com or matt@mattbarbie.com. We'll get you that to work through. But that's an important place to start. And what about mission and vision, Brian? When you really understood your mission and vision, how did that affect you in your HVAC company?
Well, and I think it's twofold. One, it was inside the company, and then two was inside yourself. So you kind of have to have two different ones, and hopefully they're pretty closely aligned with what you're doing going forward. But if you don't have where you're going, it's the roadmap. The roadmap analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going to go if you don't know where you're heading? You're just kind of floundering, just driving all over the place. So you've got to have that vision. You got to have that. What are you working for?
Mm-hmm.
And it's typically it should be one of those things that's really, it's an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm.
If it was level or downhill, it would be easy and you would be working towards it. But
right,
it has to be that uphill battle to be always working towards that vision and that mission that you're trying to establish for yourself.
Yeah, when you jump in the car and you're going to a place, when you jump in the car, first of all, like, you want to know where you're going, right? Like,
Absolutely.
you
You
know,
got to
just,
know where you're going.
I mean, maybe if it's a nice Sunday drive. I don't know if people do those anymore, but I remember as a kid, yeah, sometimes, you know, you just drive around, or I guess we're getting close to Christmas season.
You drive
Sometimes
around little
there's
Christmas lights.
drive around and look at Christmas lights. You know, you might not necessarily have a specific destination in mind, but most of the time when you jump in the car, you know where you want to go. You don't just jump in the car and be like, well, you know, I feel like eating something. You know, sometimes that happens, but you know, I think at least in our family, we need to know like what restaurant we're going to before we jump in the car, and why with the little things. Why is it so important for us to figure out the destination and just kind of leave it up in the air for like one of the most biggest, the biggest things in our lives, you know, and
Well,
then
the
one of the
biggest
most
things in your
biggest
lives
is
will take over though as well. So you've got to be able to work at those little things too.
Yeah, yeah.
Because then they just won't show up.
Right. So I like to use the example of a mission and vision because a lot of people don't necessarily know the difference. The way that I explain it and the way we work through it is a vision is like if you closed your eyes and basically kind of that wheel of success. If you were to imagine what a tin would look like, actually like try to put some structure around some structure that you can imagine, you can see in your mind's eye. Because that's what drives you. You know, what do you want your body to look like? What do you want your office to look like? Your cars, your house. But what do you want to look family time to look like? What do you want your vacations to look like? Right? You know, so you're thinking about kind of that vision for the future. But for your business, what do you want your impact to look like? If so, you have a mission of what you're trying to do on a day-to-day basis. You know, that's kind of what drives you and what you're doing regularly. But when your mission is achieved, what does your vision look like? How has the world changed because of what you've done? And then that mission is, like I said, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Like what's driving you, what kind of puts that fuel in the tank on a day-to-day basis. So you know, for instance, you know, our vision, you know, a time for success is we want a world full of faith, love, and abundance, and people feeling that they can have faith in something, each other. You know, yeah, we have our own, you know, religious, spiritual type faith, but you know, it's important that everybody finds that faith in confidence in something, and that love and the abundance for the world. But you know, our mission is better life by better business. You know, that's what fuels our tank is we're trying to help entrepreneurs create better life by creating better businesses. So I just gave you kind of an example.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
So I mean, and along those points, you know, kind of like what we also have what we call, you know, that skill versus fun matrix. You know, how can we balance the things we enjoy doing versus the things we don't like doing, but then also the things that are important versus, you know, are urgent or are very important that you need to do versus maybe some things that you don't necessarily have to do for it. So,
yeah. No, that's a great point that you brought that up. And I did print off a copy of that so that you kind of see it. So I'll explain it to the radio folks as well. But so the scale fund matrix is basically, you know, if you draw a chart and the up and down, the vertical axis is where you put like the skill or the value of what you do. Because you can break this down kind of the higher level of skill, the higher amount of money you'd pay somebody to do it for you, right? That you delegated, or the higher value it brings to your business or your life. And then on the horizontal, you know, the left and right axis, you have the fun. Like, what do you enjoy the most, right? And really, you should be, if you think about it and you draw little blocks.
So you should have 9 blocks then.
You should have 9 blocks of
three
low, medium,
up
high.
And, 3 up and 3 to the right.
Right. Low, medium, high. And if you want to simplify it, you could even just do low and high. You know, if you're not really sure where to put things, I'm all for simplification, at least, you know, the first time you do that exercise. But if you do that, you know, you should be living as much as you can. You should be striving for that top right box, because that is that takes the highest level of skill, your highest level of skill, the highest value that you bring to the table, as well as it's the most enjoyable. Everything else you should be working towards delegating, especially in the bottom left, where it's the low skill, low fun. Stop doing it. Like, delegate that out. Make sure it gets done. I mean, you still got to make sure it gets done.
But yeah, you know, look at virtual assistants. If you don't, you know, if you don't have the staff to help do it, a lot of times those virtual assistants are
Mhm.
very inexpensive that can help do those things. So that you
Yeah.
can concentrate on those better, more profitable, and more fun things to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because think about the amount of money that you want to be making per hour, or even that you bring to the table right now. Sometimes that might be low because you're working a lot of hours and not making as much money. But if you focus more on the revenue, the big ticket, the revenue generating items, and you are able to delegate most of the rest of the stuff out, you're going to find that your business grows, but you're actually even more profitable because you're focusing on the bigger ticket items, the biggest revenue generators, and we'll talk in the next section about watching the profits and how you do that. But that's really where you need to be trying to move your life and your time too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And most people will take and spend the time because they think, because okay, well, I can knock out these
Hmm.
things that are doesn't require much my skill or much of my time.
Yeah,
Um, but they don't realize they're taking away from that time of the more productive or the more profitable things that they should be
absolutely,
concentrating on.
absolutely, yeah.
And there's
So
also that difference too between um, being busy and actually doing real work as well. So a lot
yep,
of times
yep,
there's just busy work that makes you feel good because you're getting a lot accomplished, but is it really worth your time
right,
for it?
right. Absolutely. Well, I just want to kind of close out this first section before we go to a commercial break. One other thing too is, okay, so motivation. So there's a lot to talk about procrastination. I think we'll need to do some future episodes on procrastination. I know that
That's a
that,
great
that is
idea.
a big challenge for a lot of folks. But go back to our last episode as well, episode number 1. I started there with motivation and health factors because for a lot of folks, they don't quite have the motivation they want, and they've tried figuring out their vision, and they're just not quite getting there. We'll talk in the future about how to get there and how to dig deeper there. But also, you need to be taking care of your health because all the vision in the world is kind of useless if you don't have your health, and you don't have the energy. You don't have the focus, and so it can really affect you. So please make sure you go back to episode 1, watch that, and then watch out for future episodes. We're going to cover that more. But we're going to go ahead and go to the commercial break. And yeah, go ahead and roll the commercial break. Then we'll come back and we'll talk about wealth, revenue, profitability, that sort of thing. So we'll see you then. Have you been suffering from chronic pain, disease, or sleep disorders? Did you know that 75 to 90% of disease is caused by inflammation in the body? The sad truth is, most doctors just treat symptoms rather than finding and fixing root causes of inflammation. If you want to fix your health problems, then finding and fixing the cause of the inflammation is a must. It's time to demand this for your health care and start living life to its fullest again. Book a discovery appointment with the Functional Health Team founder, Dr. Flora, to get your answers ASAP at www.functionalhealthteam.com. Hey, we're back. We're back, and Dr. Fleur was on episode 1, and he talked about that. We're gonna have to have him on again and dig into that deeper because it is such a misunderstood area of life. All right, so we're going to talk in this section today about wealth, revenue, profit, sales, marketing, all that stuff. We've only got about 20 minutes to dig into all that, so of course it's not going to be the end all be all. But there's a couple of key points that we wanted to hit on. And we're going to talk about solopreneur versus entrepreneur. Solopreneur versus entrepreneur. I said that too fast for the impact that hopefully it had on you. We're going to talk a little bit about generational wealth. We're going to talk about your marketing, your revenue streams, and your revenue pipelines and recruiting pipelines, and we're going to hit a little bit upon 5 points of profit. We're going to hit upon a lot here, but first of all, I want to talk about solopreneur to entrepreneur. When you first heard that phrase, solopreneur to entrepreneur, Brian, how did that affect you?
It really resonated with me. It really did.
Yeah.
That solo person is that person who's just kind of starting out and working hard and doing what they've got to do to establish that business. But are you wanting to stay as a solo, or do you want to really truly grow into being an entrepreneur? And to
Yeah.
do that, you've got to be able to move forward with things. And sometimes I think people are scared to do that. So that was it really kind of hit home as, solo versus entrepreneur.
Yeah.
A true entrepreneur is willing to do, multiple things and keeping that vision out there and looking for new opportunities, even if it's not in an area that they have any expertise in, but they're just continually looking on how they can make themselves better.
Yeah. Yeah. That entrepreneurial level, they're really actually building an asset, and they understand that a business is not just a paycheck. It's actually meant to be an asset, something of value that you could sell, or that you can, duplicate and replicate in other locations. And that
And
entrepreneur,
if you're not there, I'm sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
But if you're not, if you remove yourself from that that solopreneur, then that business doesn't exist anymore. Where with the entrepreneur level, if you remove yourself, it should still be able to sustain itself and grow and continue to move forward.
Yeah. An entrepreneur, typically they've got some vision for like some next level challenges, or maybe some additional businesses, some additional investments, or maybe they want to they want to take some time with the family because they've worked so hard. That's cool too. But they've got to be thinking about how do I equip and empower? How do I delegate and automate myself to freedom, as opposed to having to be the owner operator and being there every day and got all the sales rely on me. Yeah, quit being so ego driven. That's the challenge here again, because this is not just a podcast. This is a call to action. Quit feeding your ego, because your ego leaves broken relationships. It leaves money on the table. It's not really that important. Feed into what again, like if you look at those success factors, what is truly important? What is truly important? Actually, I hear a lot of people talk about, I want to build $1 million business. That's your ego talking. They
just want to be able to say they're owner of $1 million business.
Yeah. Because if you got $1 million,
or just like the other, in general, even just normal people, I want to make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's the quote goal. I want $100,000 a year. That's my income. I want.
Yeah.
Because, if you're living well below those means, you don't need that amount of money. And if you're happy, so what does it matter? You could have a very wealthy person who is, in debt up to their eyeballs.
Well,
but they can say they're making $100,000-$200,000 a year.
Yeah. Because so let me put some context to this too, because I know that there's a lot of business coaches out there that are like, always 10x what you want to do, and I love the 10x idea. I really, really do, because it does challenge you to think differently, because you can't just work harder and 10x, right? Yeah. Because Grant Cardone talks a lot about the 10x. He wrote the 10x rule book, and I read that book. I do like that a lot, because it does challenge you to think bigger. And I'm not encouraging anybody. I mean, we're not encouraging anybody to limit themselves on what they can do. But but if you're doing that for the sake of what really is important in your life, if you feel like you're leaving other things behind that's important, you're not balancing things out well, right? You're leaving behind the relationship, for the revenue. And if revenue, if money is the most important thing to you, and you don't care about the relationships in your life, you know what? There are some people that's their value system, and I'm not going to necessarily knock that either, because if that's your value system, that's what you want, more power to you. But most people really do care about the relationships in their life, so don't necessarily sacrifice it. Learn how to improve your skills though, so that you can have both, right?
Absolutely.
Because here's another thing too, that I want to be careful about that line of thinking of just getting comfortable, because of the idea of generational wealth. Now, this is something that I think a lot of folks overlook, and I'm going to be candid, especially middle class Caucasians. We kind of overlook this idea of generational wealth, but it has really helped our communities be a lot stronger and healthier. And so we don't necessarily have to think about it. But there's a lot of minorities minority groups there's a lot of conversations going on about this because it is so important. Because small business and the local wealth that provides for the community is absolutely,
it's essential.
Absolutely essential. Like, because a stronger local businesses create stronger local economy, which creates a stronger local community because there's more money to go around, right? More people are employed. That money goes into the nonprofits. That money goes into even the roads and the parks and the police systems and the social systems and all that locally. So, but generational wealth is also how we pass on and make sure that our kids are able to continue to elevate and go up to that next level. Just think about it. Like, you want to give them as great of a foundation to launch off, their life as possible, because that helps them to achieve a higher level, and then their kids are going to be able to achieve a higher level. So many people get stuck in, well, I'm running a business and I'm okay. I'm working a lot of hours, but hard work, it makes me feel good. Okay, that's great, but I'm going to challenge you in that a little bit. That are you really thinking about wealth creation? I'm not necessarily talking about $1 bazillion, right? But something that you're going to be able to grow and teach your kids how to grow, teach your kids how to build generational wealth.
And it's not necessarily what you're leaving behind to your kids. It's more or less what are you teaching them and how to become successful going forward. And if some of the generational wealth allows them to do that, that's the point behind it. Not just say, I want to leave my kids X amount of dollars. Yeah.
There's wealth of knowledge, and then there's the wealth and the actual money. And so, again, it's a deeply personal issue, but I want to get you thinking about, like, okay, it's not just about, working hard and being okay today. I mean, that's great. But think about what is the legacy that you're leaving behind with your kids. How are you equipping them? What are you giving them in terms of that generational wealth? What are you passing on, right? So a couple of quick things that, they're not quick things. There's a lot of, I guess, there's a lot more depth that we could go into, but we don't have all this.
This is going to be very high level of
right.
These points here. So
right. So when we're talking about sales and marketing and revenue and profit, going back to this idea of revenue being kind of like that number being kind of ego driven. If you build $1 million business, but you're in the red every month, you're negative, or you've barely got enough money to pay your own bills, and your cash flow is killed. Your cash flow is like these big ups and downs, and it's hard for you to pay bills on time. You're wrecking yourself. So we want to encourage you to figure out and take some of this knowledge and start applying it to your business. How do you create a more profitable business, a wealthier business, not just a high level revenue business? Get good about that.
But worrying about that high number and worry about that net number. What does that net number need to be?
Right. Yeah. So first of all, a concept that a lot of folks don't necessarily know about are the 5 points of profit. And there's really these 5 key numbers in your business that you need to be tracking every day to understand not only how healthy is your business right now, but looking at where it's going to be in the future as well. Because these 5 numbers are the number of leads that are coming in. First of all, you need to know how many people are showing some interest in your business, and then the conversion rate. So how many of those leads end up becoming a customer? What percentage rate is that? The number of customers, that's a result of good lead generation strategies and good sales strategies. And those are 2 things that you can control directly. You can only point a gun at somebody's head and say, give me your money so many times. It's not really a good customer acquisition strategy. Just trying to force people into it. Right. Not long-term. So you have to have good lead generation and good conversion rate, good sales strategy. So those are the two numbers: lead conversion rate, and then you need to know how often people are buying from you, right? So that third number is the number of transactions that clients have with you. So how frequently are they buying from you? And then how much money do they spend per transaction, right? Because if you can increase the amount of money that they spend per transaction, then through bundling or adding additional services or upsells, cross sells, if you can increase that, it makes your life easier because you've already spent your money in lead acquisition costs, right? So, the more that you can make that
as much as you can,
yeah,
offer your full gamut of bundling, or
absolutely
the other side of it, unbundling to be able to get it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that fourth number is the amount of money per transaction. That final number is really your gross margin, how much money you are making after a job's completed. So after the money that you've spent for that customer acquisition costs and how much money, I like to include that in there as well, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't include that in there, but you need to know how much money you spent to get that customer, to get that job, or to sell that service or sell that product. And then how that the cost of goods sold is the way that we talk about it, like with the product, but it's basically that gross margin, anything that went into fulfilling for that customer. Could be delivery costs, it could be gas, it could be supplies, labor, those kind of things that go into actually delivering on fulfilling on whatever the offering was that you offered. So if you know those five numbers, you're much farther ahead than most people in terms of understanding how profitable your offering is. So again, it's leads, conversion rate, the amount of or the number of transactions per customer, the amount of money per transaction, and your gross profit margin.
And a lot of small business, unfortunately, they lead with their gut and they don't know the numbers. And you think, okay, that high number, man, I'm doing great this year. I'm almost at $1 million, or I'm over $1 million already for the year, so I'm doing great. They don't know what those other numbers are. And you've got to know. Any business owner has to at least know the very basics of the financials to know where.
Right. And I know for a lot of folks, when you start talking about numbers, like the eyes kind of glaze over and it becomes really boring. But guess what? When you learn how to control your numbers and you see those numbers increase, it gets a lot more fun. So
it's a game. And you try to gamify it. You make it easier, make it fun.
Yeah. But the other important part of, like I was saying, that there's predictors, and then there's those lagging indicators of where you are. If you're only looking at your profit and loss statements, you're looking at a lagging indicator. But if you know your averages of those five numbers that we talked about, the 5 points of profit, you can start projecting how much money you're bringing in just based on how many leads are coming in. If you know your average conversion rate for the leads that are coming in, and you're able to actually predict your overall profits from that, and think how powerful that is. Because if you're not having enough leads coming in, you know that you need to ratchet up your marketing, rather than looking at it at the end of the month and being like, man, we didn't do very much business this month. What happened? Well, it's too late at that point. Your bill collectors are not going to be like, well, yeah, just make it up next month. It's fine. Most people aren't like that, right? So if you can be monitoring how many leads that you're supposed to be getting in per week, per day, especially for restaurants, this is huge. I mean, you got to know by noon, maybe a little bit later, 1 or 2, depending on what food you serve and what meals and all that stuff. But I mean, you need to know like almost by the hour of what's going on. Otherwise, you might need to send out some text message marketing, put some stuff on your social media, try to drive somewhere, put somebody out in a monkey suit with a sign out on the road. Cause you need to be able to pivot, because you got people who want to be paid that day. You've got food costs, all that stuff. So there's some businesses that's even more important to really know that and monitor those numbers consistently, regularly like that, and not let it fall to the wayside.
Absolutely.
So, and here's another thing that I just want to kind of hit upon too. So we talked a little bit about time and delegation before, right? You have to have good people though to do that, and a lot of people kind of push off marketing, don't realize how important it is. But right now we're in the great resignation, right? We've got people who are leaving companies right and left, and people don't understand why they can't find good help. Guess what? If you've got good marketing, it fills two funnels. Okay, it fills the revenue funnel and the recruiting funnel, the two R's of marketing, revenue and recruiting. You need to have those funnels filling up constantly in your business if you want to be able to have the right people to delegate to and control your time. And if you want to have the revenue that you want to be able to have the profits that you want, right? So don't underestimate marketing, and don't think it's something that should just happen passive or just necessarily just with referrals. It's just going to come naturally. That's the slow way to build a business. You have to understand that you need a market dominating position. You need to understand how to create the right kind of message that inspires people and gets them to want to buy from you, and where so that message
You need to
is
call
like
more the disruptor though.
Yeah.
If your typical marketing message is the same as your competitors, then what do? You're going to resort to price for it. So you have to make yourself different, and call that, that disruptor. What are you different from your competitor? And that's what you got to market.
Right.
And then that can also play along to your culture too. Because people like to do business with people that they like. And if they see your company having a good culture and doing things in the community and being, present, they're more likely going to want to do something with you just because they feel good about you and your company.
Absolutely. So, and to be able to have the wealth that you want to have, you have to buy into the idea that there's more wealth to be had, that you can take things to a higher level, that it is important to create generational wealth, and wealth for yourself and your business is key, is really what you should be trying to build, not just, a great name, not just a big number, but wealth in your business. And then you have to know your numbers. You have to understand the impacts of your efforts. You have to be able to measure those. And you have to create the kind of business that people want to work with and for, that attracts great customers and great employees, right?
And those, and like I said, it's a great dual funnel. If you're creating one, you're working towards the other, and if you're working on the other, it's creating your marketing funnel. So they go hand in hand nowadays, especially with the labor shortage that's there.
Yeah. Yeah. And having that market dominating position, people want to work for the disruptors. They want to work because they want to feel like they're doing something different, that they're changing the world, that they're making an impact, especially the younger generation. They want to know that they're changing the world. They've been beaten into their head that, climate change is going to kill them all. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying climate change isn't real or anything like that, but what I'm saying is that like younger generations believe that something's going to kill them. So they want to try to do something to change the world. I've talked to a lot of like folks, and I'm not exacerbating this by any means, exaggerating or anything like this. It truly is like talking to folks. It's sad.
It's that, yes, they want to be able to do that, and they want to work and make a difference for it. And they might not necessarily want a lot of money to do it. They are a little bit different, where they want to make that difference.
Yeah,
and
but to be able to
not be important.
Yeah,
or as important.
But at the end of the day, I mean, you need great people working for you. You need great people who are working on your mission with you. And that's why we talk about the mission. That's why we're talking about this wealth altogether, this time and delegation. I mean, this is really all very, very strongly connected, and people in ways that people don't connect the dots. And so we're trying to connect some of these dots for you to help you understand why it's important not to just kind of passively just do good enough. Quit just doing good enough. You've got so much impact that you can make on people's lives if you understand these concepts. And one other tool, because we're going to be wrapping up here in a second, but one other tool I wanted to just bring to your attention, and Jason's our engineer behind the scenes, keeping everything running for us. If you can run that link again, I'm going to give everybody access to our monthly marketing planner, and this helps you to better understand how much money you're investing in your marketing and what results that you're getting. And there's actually a free training for this. So if you go to tools.tfsstl.com/ all caps MMP. It is all caps. It is cap sensitive because I only want people who are paying attention to get it right. So, all right. So there's this marketing planner out there. You can download this tool. There's a free training, but it does help you to better capture and understand and evaluate how much money you're investing in your marketing. Get your conversion rates, your return on investments, your cost per leads, cost per new customer. It'll do all those calculations for you if you just put in the numbers. So I just want to make sure that you knew that you had that available for you. Make sure you go out there and get that. But kind of to wrap up today's show, we talked about time versus money. And you can't have both. You can have the freedom that you want to seek to do the things that you love with the people that you love. And you can have the wealth that you can pass on of knowledge, skills, money to make sure that your kids are going to be able to keep leveling up and helping their kids keep leveling up as well. So don't underestimate your ability to impact these lives. Don't underestimate how important it is for you to spend time with your family. And as much as they want to understand, it's not the same as actually having you there. And so please take into account. Make sure that you build out your vision, understand where you are in that wheel of life. Again, if you want that, just email me at matt@mattbarbie.com. I'll email that. I'll send you the wheel of life for you to work on. And if you have any questions, we can shoot back forth email. I'm happy to help. Plus, don't forget about our free group coaching that we do every month. And I'm going to put that in the here we go. It's freebusinesscoaching.eventbrite.com to register, and we give out more tools and strategies each month as well with that. But if you're looking to take your business to the next level, please reach out. We're here to do one-on-one services as well. So if it's time to what was that?
So be glad to help to let them know and use our experience to help grow your business.
Absolutely. You don't have to do it alone, and doing it alone leaves a lot of stress and a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted money. So please let us help you out. And thanks, Brian, so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me
really
on. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you for being with us today. But now is the time to put what we talked about into practice. Remember, your family, employees, and community are depending on you to rise up and win. The great news is you're not alone. You're part of a resurgence of entrepreneurs who are ready to take their business, life, and impact to the next level, and we're going to do it together. This show is powered by Time for Success, where we help business owners every day who want more freedom and wealth while building a legacy of positive impact. Please follow Time for Success on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for more helpful strategies and tools for creating the business and life of your dreams.